gotta talk about the early things that we're seeing with Beyond the Brave. Now make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that Gordian Slicer button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. Now, I found Gordian Slicer to be quite an interesting topic of conversation right now. We were already seeing Gordian Slicer kind of coming up a little bit more recently in terms of, you know, board breaking capabilities in the TCG. But what's making this so exciting in the OCG? Well, it's because Gordian Slicer versus Mind Shuffle Mind Scan is such a hilarious interaction. So Mind Scan says, hey, negate, you know, the effects of a card. Well, Mind Scan cannot actually hurt the Gordian Slicer, which means the Gordian Slicer actually can be used to basically clear up an entire field of problems against the Toon deck. It's kind of like a sword and shield sort of scenario. You know, you're using the Mind Scan as a defensive pressure point against the opponent, while, you know, Gordian Slicer offensively bypasses that and is able to, you know, actually set up an okay presence. Now, obviously, this can be costly because, you know, you're going to have to sacrifice either bits and pieces of your extra deck, or you're going to have to lose, you know, some advantage from your hand. So whatever, you know, this Gordian Slicer itself is going to feed on, you're going to have to be able to play through either a strong board from the opponent, or you're going to have to work on a very minimalistic field that you're going to be left with to combo up with from your hand. So I think the card is interesting. I think, you know, Mind Scan is an absurd card, and, you know, hand knowledge is absolutely crazy in this game. And the fact that, you know, Konami basically printed that is a completely other creature of level of crazy. But at the exact same time, though, this is one of those cases of the game where we do have a counter, and the counter is seeing some good play. Which brings us to the first Penguin and a Shutra. So I will tell you, the amount of people that I have seen that have been playing a Shutra, or at least testing out all these different variants, is so cool, man. Like, I've seen a Trap Trickster, I've seen a Dark Magician variant, I've seen a Primite variant, there's a few other variants I can't remember off the top of my head, but the amount of people that want to make the Shutra engine work as a whole is actually quite impressive to me. I didn't expect to see this many people kind of jumping on the bandwagon, thinking that, you know, a Shutra would be an engine that would be, you know, playable to a lot of the community. And that's what we've been seeing. This is where the first Penguin comes in. First Penguin's able to reveal the level 8 in the deck, and then able to search for the level 7, which just ends up being, you know, one of the more important bridges for the deck. If your deck can get access to its consistent pieces, and then also the little guy himself can become a tuner monster, that just kind of helps you out with every point. Because remember, the Shutra, the traps are the ones that end up being the tuners. So in theory, by having the first Penguin be the reveal, to go get the 7, as long as we can get the 7 into rotation, and, you know, you've got the Penguin established, congratulations, you have a tuner, you're able to make your first little line of play. It might not be a super strong play to start things off, but, you know, you're starting with the Shutra deck does. Whatever secondary package you're choosing to play, you know, whether it be something like Trap Tricks, Primite, Regenesis, even, as an anchor point for the deck, you have a lot of options to kind of consider with the deck. And I do think it's more casual player friendly for what they're trying to work with a Shutra, which, you know what? You get a pass from me on this one, Konami. I didn't think that a Shutra would be as tested as it is, and it's coming along quite well. This brings me to Ryzle. I talked about Ryzle already the other day. Ryzle was already starting to gain a foothold in Japan fairly recently with the idea of, you know, being able to combine it with tunes. Because the thing that tunes is able to do is they can go with the Tri-Brigade plays through, where they can get the 2 beasts on the field and then be able to combo up that way, or they can end on the 2 rabbits, and then, you know, the 2 rabbits gives you access into Duo Drive. And then, of course, as most of you know, Duo Drive is in fact the best rank 4 generic bridge that you can to crawl on into the other package just to kind of keep things going. That's excellent. That's great. The problem here is this isn't, Toons aren't the only one that are doing this. We've already been seeing Blitzclick looking at the Ryzle cards because, you lead Blitzclick first, and then, you kind of go through your stuff. You lock your extra deck, whoop-de-doo, not really much of a sacrifice at that stage. But then, you've got your setup, you're ready to go, and then the next thing that you just kind of spin through is, unleash the Blitzclick. All right. And then, of course, there's been a couple of other little interesting decks here and there that are looking at the Ryzle package. Just, Umbral Horror also in the OCG is like, oh, hey, we're doing rank 4 turbo. So, we may as well just bridge on into Ryzle Deadnamer and be able to just kind of keep things going. They also made the new 101. It's also able to search for this. I'm honestly impressed that, even with X, Ice, and all of this limited to 1, it's honestly just better just to have them all remain at 1, just so that, you can do the Congo filter line through them as, you're kind of comboing up. It just seems more consistent. The Dark Time Wizard. So, there have been a lot of funny lists popping up in the OCG right now that we're just seeing the Dark Time Wizard spell card being splashed in decks. Now, why in the world is this time magic spell card even being discussed outside of the Joey Wheeler deck? Well, it's because of the Red Eyes Black Dragon's summoning conditions. The Red Eyes, so as long as something was destroyed by the effect of the Time Wizard magic card, you basically get a free kaiju on anything on the opponent's field, which then brings up a 3,400 attack point monster for you to be able to deal or to work with, which is kind of crazy to think about. I hadn't really thought about just starting to build this package into going second decks for you to be able to work with. But also, this thing gives us the ability to special summon a level 8 or lower monster from the hand or graveyard. And then it itself is unaffected by, monster effects, I think spell effects from by your opponent's activated monster and any spell effects. That's crazy. It also stands on a 3,400 attack point, body. So, even if your opponent tries to deal with this, traps are going to be really one of the only emphasizing points to try to deal with this big Red Eyes. So, is it worth it to have a 3-card splash package in your decks? I don't know. It's a gimmick. Gimmicks can be fun, gimmicks can be bad. But at the same time, there's a lot to kind of think about when you're exploring, these things. I'm glad to see that, this is a going second package that is actually working out. And that's kind of cool. I do like more going second gimmicks. And then GMX. Holy crap, man. I don't know, these dinosaur enjoyers in the OCG, you give them 3 miscellaneous Ceratosaurus, and they are making this GMX pile actually work. And it's crazy to think about how disconnected that the TCG and the OCG is here. While we only have 1 miscellaneous Ceratosaurus, they have 3. And because they have access to 3, their dinosaur piles are infinitely more consistent than ours. And I've never really seen a GMX deck take off in the OC or in the TCG the way that the OCG players are like, oh yeah, you just pitch the misc and you can play shifter. There's a lot of really cool interactions that you can kind of toss into the Dino Pile deck. Meanwhile, because of the limitations that we have, we don't get to. GMX was a failed archetype here, and it's really sad actually, because had we had what they have, I think we could have seen something a little bit cooler. And God, that's just so crazy to think about, that they are getting such a different experience with this game, with the dinosaur stuff, than we could have ever hoped to have had. I'm a little bit jealous, honestly. The fact that I've seen a good chunk of dinosaur lists kind of populating each and every week is so cool. All right, maybe I just want to see an actual dinosaur deck actually do well in the TCG. That's just not a a dumpster pile of boringness. Because seeing the same dino slot piles is a little bit boring. But what do you guys think about these cool little tech choices? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys.
Patrons.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.